Welcome to Integral Leadership in Action Writer Support Pod. It's October. Over to Karen. Woo!
Woohoo! I'm excited. This is the biggest writer support pod we've had yet. It's going to keep growing. A number of threads are coming together and braiding. Jane Simmons is our main speaker today. She's presented before a couple of times, and we're circling back around to her new avocation as book coach, among other things. And Jane has also just recently joined the Cosmos Cooperative Writers Group, and she has prepared a 10-minute presentation, I believe. Is that correct, Jane? About 10 minutes?
Yes, about 10 minutes presentation.
And then so we will listen to Jane for 10 minutes, and then we will discuss, chew, enjoy ourselves hanging out together. Okay, take it away, Jane.
Thank you, Karen. I'm going to share my screen. So I'm actually going to turn my camera off. I'm not in the witness protection program, but I have found that our bandwidth here can be a little wonky. So if I'm sharing my screen, it's best I turn it off, but I'm going to get up my stuff here first. Okay, turn it off. All right, can you all hear me? I hope you can all hear me. All right. Well, I want to begin by saying I'm actually not a book coach. I opted not to complete the training for becoming a full-fledged certified book coach because I discovered that in the program I was enrolled in, there was much in it that was just not a good fit for me or for what I wanted to do. Now, a fair amount of it was excellent. I learned a lot that has helped me in my own writing and can help others to organize their writing. But I made the conscious decision to not be a book coach, but rather be an integral writing coach, working with authors in organizing their work. And my focus is nonfiction, but not just any nonfiction. I want to work with writers who want to make the world a better place. And so when you think of the 4 quadrants, that opens up a wide range of possibility, from personal self-awareness and self-development to practices that bring transformation. One is upper left, one is upper right, to cultural and global system change. So all the 4 quadrants, that's the arena that I'm working in. So you can see it's quite a spectrum of possibility. And I have to tell you, this is what excites me. It's really my passion to truly support integral writers who are inspired to bring about positive change and transformation in our world. And my goal is to help widen their sphere of influence, amplify their voices, amplify their work. Really, I want to see the work out there, helping to make the world a better place. And so I like to work with writers at the outset of their work on the organizational aspect of it. This, in my opinion, is the most important place to start. And I've found some very helpful, effective resources for this. One is a book written by Jenny Nash called Blueprint for a Nonfiction Book. For those of you who write fiction, she also has Blueprint for a Fiction Book. So there is some great possibilities if you want to really look into her work, and I highly recommend it. Another is Kelly Notaris, the book You Were Born to Write. She has worked with Hay House for years, and both of these books are really excellent. I highly recommend both. I encourage you to get a copy of them if you're interested. These 2 authors have both worked very extensively for publishing companies. Their job was reading incoming manuscripts, and they realized how much more coherent and readable these manuscripts could be if they just had a little coaching prior to starting the writing. And so their respective books are trying to help authors create coherent work so that it warrants a second look from an editor who literally sees hundreds of these manuscripts weekly. So this is why I think this kind of coaching can be so valuable. I mean, if you're writing, have you ever felt like this when you sat down to write? You know, I just bought a book from IKEA and I'm going to just got to start from the whole beginning here. I've got to put it all together. And so the coaching work that I do is really more of sort of navigating with you through a range of answering some important basic questions. Like, why are you writing this book in the first place? In fact, what is compelling you to do so? Why are you writing it, and what's the reason? What's compelling you to write this particular book? And then why you? Why are you the best person to do it? What's the main point you're trying to make? And then, really, who are you writing this book for? This is a big one. These questions may seem pretty simple. They're surprisingly difficult to pin down. And especially this who of you're writing for. You might say, well, I'm writing it for anyone, for everybody, right? Well, maybe then, but I got to tell you that your focus is going to be so general that you're writing for no one, really, basically. I saw a John Steinbeck quote. He said, forget your generalized audience. In the first place, the nameless, faceless audience will scare you to death. And in the second place, unlike the theater, it doesn't even exist, is what he says. But then he goes on to make a really good suggestion, in my view. He said, in your writing, your audience is one single reader. You're writing to one reader at a time. Just imagine that. And he says, I have found it helpful to sometimes pick out one person, a real person or an imagined person, if you want. Write to that one person. And I have found that to be so helpful to imagine you're writing this for a specific person. And that will even make you sit down and write. It has for me. It's like, I have to write this for this person. I've got to do it. I've got to do, at least one page a day for this person. And so you want to describe in detail your ideal reader and then write the book for that specific person. And because when you really hit on who you're writing for, doors really open. Now you can drill down. You can look at what is their need? What's their specific need? How is your book going to fill that need? And this, in turn, can help you get clear on the point of your book. Here's a great question. What is keeping this person up at night? And what transformation are you promising them as they read your book? What's their need? What keeps them up at night? How is your book going to fill that need? And what's the transformation you're promising them? And once you really get clear on those things, now the writing of the book really opens up. First, we can create a very coherent table of contents that follows a clear pathway to the transformation that you're promising. And you can use that as your guide as you write the book, always asking yourself the question, how is this taking me closer to the transformation that I've promised? Is it or isn't it? And after that, the editing that goes on at this point is much more about developmental editing. It's very big picture feedback that's guided by the transformation being promised. That keeps us in that arena, keeps us working in that avenue. So this is the main aspect of the work that I do. It's organization upfront. Why? Because once you get clarity on all these things, the writing flows so much more smoothly. First of all, you realize when you're going in circles, you kind of, okay. Or if you're trying to crowbar in a story or a point that really has nothing to do with the book. I mean, have you ever had a great story? Oh, I've got to include this. This is such a good story. But it really isn't part of what you're trying to write about, but you're just trying to get it in there. We catch ourselves doing that. We also catch ourselves going off on these tangents. They're usually very entertaining tangents, very interesting tangents. But are they taking us on a fun side trip that's really not part of the transformation we're promising? So all these things are part of what I typically do. And I have to tell you, I'm not interested in creating a coaching business. I really don't have the time. But if you are interested in an introductory session to explore how I could support you in just sort of navigating these questions, go ahead and email me at drjanesimmons@gmail.com. And and we can set up some kind of a Zoom meeting to talk about it. I'm really interested in doing that kind of support. But so in addition to that, what I've been really working with in this group much more is that I'm always researching and exploring what an integral writer does and sharing that with others who are on the path. And I certainly don't claim to be an expert on this. I am learning as I go, but as I do, I love sharing the research that I come up with. So in the past, in this group, we've looked at what is involved in becoming a polarity thinker, a both and way of thinking and writing. How can we learn to be with paradox in such a way that we can write about it? And Lisa, I loved your book and read it. And, you've got a real ability to take this very difficult topic to write about, and you really do a great job with that. So it's like, how do we straddle the known and the unknown and write about this in such a way that we can help others learn to start navigating um, these kinds of things in our life? And these are really second tier, um, competencies. And so if we're really into this sort of integral model and we want to be learning some of these skills, practicing some of these skills, we want to learn how can we write about it to help others as well. We've also looked at writing in the three voices of the I, we, and it. By writing as the scientist, what is it? That which is the upper right and lower right quadrants. Then the artist, how does it affect me personally? What's my personal story about this? Um, and the upper left, and then the voice of the philosopher, which is the lower left. What does this mean for us as a culture? And as we do this, we're speaking from all four quadrants, which when I did that kind of research, I was quite fascinated to see how that worked. Another avenue that I'm currently looking at is how do we language our writing so it's readable by anyone, whatever their center of gravity on the spiral of worldviews. This is a big one for us. How can we write in such a way that it can be heard by anyone, regardless of what their center of gravity may be? So this, again, communicating with anyone on the spiral is a competency of a second tier thinking. And in the integral course that my husband and I teach, which is specific, as I said, to ministry, we have our students practice writing simple things like announcements and updates that have something for someone centered in blue, someone centered in orange, someone in green worldviews. Often we'll find we have this variety of people in the congregation, and it's incredible what they come up with. It just blows my mind as they start to practice this. So again, these are things that I'm wanting to kind of research more and more and find ways that we can do that. So future topics, you've heard from Karen, about studying, interviewing other successful integral writers and see how they've done it. I'm looking at writing about waking up, growing up, cleaning up, showing up. How do you write about those things? What are some ways we can do that? As well as how do we write maybe with a non-dual perspective? All these things. So that's what I can offer to our writers in this group. Aside from coaching their work, is to explore these foundational practices and skills and do the research on that and share it with everyone. So stay tuned for more from me. I just wanted to give you just a little bit of a taste of the kind of work that I do, and to let you know that as an integral writer, I mean, the reason I joined this pod was to learn and to share the writing with people who are, doing the work and to explore together and learn together. So I'm really wanting to be a team player in this arena, and just I want you to know my support is definitely here, and this is my passion. The world needs us to be writing right now and helping to bring forth a new paradigm of living that that whole hospice and midwife thing. It's really up for us, I think, as a culture. And so, however I can support that, I'm here.
Thank you, Jane. Yes, the hospicing, the last time you spoke, you talked about hospicing the outgoing world era and midwifing the incoming. This is a passion that drives my fiction also. I see, as a cultural historian, I see very much the postmodern world era that we have known for the last 80 years since the end of World War II is ending. A next new world order is in the process of emerging. But most of us are, what we're seeing, what we're witnessing in this headline screaming at us every day is the breakdown of the old world order. Very few people yet see the green shoots of the next emergent world order. And I think we as integral writers, thinkers, visionaries, and so on, we have a critical role in helping bring our voice, our vision out to the world. Let's see, I'm trying to, let's see, Jane, you quoted something to me about how your passion is to help bring our own, yes, Jane says her passion is to help people like us, integral creative writers, bring forth our own unique contribution out into a world that needs our vision. And just, oh my gosh, in just recent weeks and months, the world needs our vision. and we need each other to support each other, keep our faith, keep going. What's happening? I mean, this to me, I've been using the. I'm gonna spiel a little bit, and then I'll open this to general questions, comments, discussion. I have been for some years now. I have been using the metaphor of a birth. The next new world order has been in the womb, and now it's emerging. It's in the birth canal. It's like a fetus. The world we've known is dying. It's breaking down. But we're being born into a new world era. And I think of the fetus from the point of view, as integralists, we ought to be able to take the point of view of this poor baby who's leaving the only world it's ever known. It is crushing. I know, Tamar, you have some issues with this, and we will talk about it in our writers group. But we're being pushed, the little baby being pushed through the birth canal must think it's dying. It's being crushed. It's in unbearable pain. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. It must think it's dying. It doesn't realize it's in a tunnel. Well, it is in a tunnel. It thinks it's dying. But eventually there's a light at the end of the tunnel, right? And then but the contractions get worse and worse and worse until finally that baby is pushed out into a new world it could never have imagined. If we could have tried to tell that little baby, that little fetus in the womb, the world that awaits it, there's no way it could have understood. But then finally it gets pushed out of the only world it's known, through that birth canal, out into the light where there are hands waiting to receive it, people who we hope are willing to love it. We are in that birth canal and the contractions are getting really fierce. So to have this group at this point becomes even more meaningful to me, aside from the support for my own creative work. So I'm really focusing, as you can see, on that metaphor that Jane and I have independently come up with the same metaphor, and I'm sure some of you have too. But I love the way she put it. I've kind of latched onto it. Hospicing the old order and midwifing the new. So is this a birth or a death? It just depends on which side of the tunnel you're standing on, what your perspective is. So that's my burble. Thank you very much. So who wants to raise a hand, pop a question or comment in the chat?
Wow.
Who's next? I can go on, but who's next?
I'll ask questions. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So Jane, what are you saying? What would the difference between writing fiction and nonfiction, like from the approach of organization?
Yeah, there's quite a bit. I have not been trained at all to work with fiction, and so I apologize to you wonderful fiction writers. I can give some general feedback. There are some things that translate who you're writing for, write for that person. But when it comes to plot development, character development, POV, I know a little, but I wouldn't presume to guide anybody else in that. But the book, Blueprint for a Fiction Book, I highly recommend it because it'll be very specific to writing fiction. So I wish I could be, I can give you feedback. I love to read fiction. I can, as a fiction reader, I can give you my feedback, but it's not really coming from a coaching perspective. Yeah.
I'll pop that into the chat for a fiction book. Jenny Nash, Blueprint for a Fiction Book. Who's up next? Gary.
The expression hospicing the old world and midwifing the new world really jumped out at me, and I'm really having difficulty with it because of the metaphor that is sometimes used, and I know some people argue with it, but I think it has some usefulness. The metaphor of the escalator, that as one generation is aging and going through aging and staging through the stages, other ones are replacing them, and it's one of the reasons why, in my opinion, change happens so slowly on a society level. And so I have trouble with the notion that a new world order is coming about, because I'm not sure which part of the old world order is dying.
Yes, well, thank you for that, Gary. By the way, I can't claim to be the person that made up midwifing and hospicing. I have read it myself, but I'm claiming the work. I think the work is important. There's a great book called Hospicing Modernity by Vanessa Machado de Oliveira. But she just brought out Outgrowing Modernity. So it's her brand new book, and I'm rereading. I just about done rereading Hospicing, and now I'm on to Outgrowing, which I think might be another way to look at this. Right? Mm-hmm. Is that, it's as we continue to evolve, we're shedding, we're transcending some things, we're including some, transcending others, and moving into a higher order of thinking. Just if you look back on our history, you'll see it's happened, and it hasn't been like that. You didn't snap into the agrarian age. It took a long time. But are you familiar with Neil Howe's work?
Mm-mm.
Neil Howe, Howe. His latest book is called The Fourth Turning is Here.
Oh.
Now, I think he wrote The Fourth Turning, but now it's actually here. And if you want to read about how he takes 80-year segments and divides it into 4 generations, and he names each generation. There's the artist, the this, that I can't recall what they are, but he shows, and he takes it back to like the 1500s in England, and he shows all of these 80-year cycles where there's a crisis of some kind, and this particular generation came of age as that crisis was happening. And then the next generation is on the upswing, they come of age. The next generation's on the downside, and then another crisis. And so he shows this going all the way through English history and American history right up to the present time. And he, as a boomer, I grew up in a time of great change, up in the 60s. It was I don't know how many of you lived through the 60s. Those of us who were there, many of us don't remember. They say a big joke there, but it was a time of amazing change, and our generation kind of holds that energy, whereas the next generation, my kids, okay, boomer, I don't know if your kids have said that to you, but it's like they have a different perspective because they grew up in a different time period. Anyway, so you can see it. I read it's like this thick, this book, but I couldn't put it down. I just kept reading about all these things and then applying what he said to my generation when I was, there was the boomers, he's very specific about what that's about. So I recommend that book to show you how change happens and why, and what, how you show up in this time period and have a certain way of being because of what's happening in the culture. And so, and he's showing this time to be another one of those times when there's a lot of change happening, right? And so, but I agree with you. It's not a snap your finger. Hey, I've been waiting for this new age to start. How many of you might remember the harmonic convergence?
Oh, yeah.
That happened in the 80s, and then we had the world healing meditations in the 80s. That this is it, the world's changing, and then the age of Aquarius, and then this, and then Y2K. We're all waiting for this new age, but I really think it's happening, not as quickly as I would like it to see, but if you read Vanessa Mikado's work, you'll see she talks about hospicing, but she also talks about composting the shit of the current culture.
Yeah.
That's her wording. You gotta take all this crap, and we have to learn from it and get the gift from it before we can move into something greater, and so but I'm with you. I wish it would just happen. I wish I could wake up tomorrow and go, oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, can I?
Tamar, did you want to say something?
I have a question. Yeah, okay, question or comment. I mean, I think that there is a difference between evolution and revolution, right? And death of the old world and rebirth of the new world is more like a revolution. And well, from the world experience, revolution, that you try to destroy the old and you don't know where you are going is going to end not that great. And we really don't know where we are going. I mean, we know what we want to happen, but we don't know how to get there. And like what Ken Wilber talk about it on a personal level is transcend and include. You don't throw away anything. You just transcend it and you develop further. And I'm afraid that if you are going to throw away the old one, we are going to create a chaos, because most of the world, most of the population, we know the statistics. I'm going to tell you, I don't know, only 20% are no, even green or whatever. I mean, not even everybody got to orange. So, well, I think, according to Keegan or whatever, I think maybe only 40% are orange and above. So you cannot, and we see the chaos now because, yeah, everybody feels that it doesn't work anymore. Right? The crisis is a fact, but what we are seeing now is the fear of a great part of the population, which cause them to go back to immigration to a world that is more familiar to them. What you can call it a womb, but they want to breathe in womb. And and in society, I mean, it's not like in the birth that you've got to. And I think that the AI and the concentration of power and money in the hands of few is very dangerous, because it's going to determine where we are going. And I'm not saying that there is no possibility to all the wonderful thing that Karen has described and all of us want to happen, but we are in a very dangerous, and I think, and I really don't have anybody to talk with, what we can do to make it go to the positive side, not to go back, because yeah, it's screaming to us, but it can get worse, and we are seeing it getting worse every day. And if not controlled by a totalitarian regime, it's very hard. I mean, everything changes at the end, but catastrophe can happen until that happens. The question is, in my mind, what can we do to prevent the transition? And I'm afraid of revolution. I was born kind of in socialist milieu, and the revolution, we are going to throw away the old world and we create a new world. And you see what happens in a communist era. So you can have your dream, and reality it can be something else. So we need to be very careful with destroying stuff before we have something a replacement.
Okay. It is now, thank you, Tamar. It is now 5 minutes before we close. So I'm going to take the prerogative as the moderator of this meeting to just wrap up by saying my large view as a cultural historian who likes really big pictures is that every new emergence of a new order of complexity that never existed before happens through a period of extreme turbulence. Whether we're talking about the physical universe, that's phase change. If we're talking about geology, there are long periods of slow incremental change, that's the evolution. And then short periods of intense cataclysmic change that completely change the landscape. And then there's a new period of long, slow change. In the biosphere, in biological evolution, we have punctuated equilibrium, long periods where evolution is very slow, and then short periods of cataclysmic change, which are catastrophic for those who live through it. Human societies, and I'm going to be giving, Bet's helping me create a course on this, the 6 prior eras, Ken Wilber's first tier. Each new emergent order emerges through a period of extreme chaos. Doesn't always lead to a next new world order. Sometimes it's a regression, but eventually evolution happens. There's a next world order, and that's the track I'm rooting for. And whether or not it happens, I'm going to try to help it. And so that Tamar, this is an ongoing conversation between me and Tamar, by the way.
I want to help you. I want to prevent it from going back for regression because
But
I think
the regressive xenophobic backlash is a feature of the human transitions. It is a, circle the wagons mentality, but we will debate that another time. It's time to bring this particular flight in for a landing. So Bet, I would invite you to, let's see, first of all, I want to plug our next Integral Creative Writer Support Pod meeting. Next month, the first Monday of November, which I think is the 3rd, we will be featuring Andrea Vondelot and Sridevi, if you can make it too. Well, Andrea published her book through Cosmos Cooperative's imprint, Untimely Books, and Sridevi helped her set up a very successful local publicity campaign. And so we will be Andrea, I'll be in touch with you in the next day or two to start setting up for next month. So that's this support pod. And Bet, could you repeat the other 2? Are you up for this? We have 2 other support pods.
I do, but I actually have something to tie into Tamar's thoughts. So
okay.
This is literally what I write about every week in my Substack is agency, human agency, right? I mean, this is where yoga comes in. I'm a yoga teacher also. Seems like a lot of us here like have a lot of things in common. So it's like, how do we do things to bring our vision to the world? How do we do things to make our relationship with our spouse, our family, our kids, our neighbors healthy and strong, right? I think there's just so many things that every one of us can do. We can get burdened by all this, like, oh my gosh, the world is, going to bleep, 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 bleep. But the truth is we can really do a lot. And so one of the things I look at in my Substack is agency. So my one that I just published was it today? Is about my mom who died 6 years ago, but she was always teaching me stuff. And there's this intergenerational transfer of knowledge that I think it's so important for us to evolve. Anyways, I explore that, but I also explore, I'm really into sci-fi, guys, like hardcore. I'm so into sci-fi and I'm a tech person. So I'm always thinking like, how can we use this technology to actually help us evolve? So that I may or may not publish this other article. I always change my mind, but I'm thinking about like, what is the technologies that have actually helped us? So I just think very critically about, is it a crutch? Is it augmentation? Is it helping? Last week's was about crutches. I actually had a lady come into my yoga class with one leg. She was in a wheelchair and we use the word crutch. Anyways, I just explore all these things. You guys are going to love my articles. I promise if you go to my Substack, this is all an advertisement. Yeah. Anyways, okay. So next month, we have the IL.
What is your Substack address? Can you put it?
Yeah, it should be in here. I think I posted it.
Yeah, it's the last post in chat.
That's the one I published this morning.
Okay.
Yeah. What my mother, I love this title. I play all week with my title. My mother was late. No, my late mother was early, but I wasn't ready. Isn't that like give you chills? Anyways. So yeah, okay. ILP, Integral Life Practices, it's an accountability group about really facing your shadow. And Karen just recorded a video with the leader of that,
Larry O'Connor. Yeah.
Brilliant, wonderful job. And so go check that out, that they're diving and doing a deep dive into the book Integral Life Practices. If you guys love Marco, he helped write that.
Yeah.
And then on the third Monday of this month, I'm doing a presentation that's all about gift launching. So I know Jane is like specific about books, but let's say you want to bring a class to the world, like a yoga nidra class, Shri. Do you go by Shri or Shri Devi, the whole thing? Anyways, you're on mute. That's okay. Anyways, it's like if you wanted to put a class on the internet so that you can really scale your reach, I'm basically going to help you think about how to launch a social media, how to launch a Substack. All these tools are so yucky, like they can be so markety and orange and so gross, but I'm going to help you think about them as far as chakras. Like, you know, if you put things out into the universe, you maybe want to also put them on a website. So I'm doing that on the third Monday of this month. So that's coming up. These are all free. They'll all be recorded so if you can't make it.